The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered a total military occupation of the Gaza Strip as part of his genocidal campaign against the Palestinian people. In Chile, the Forensic Medical Service announces the delivery of two bodies that could be identified following last Thursday's mining tragedy. And Bolivian President Luis Arce unveiled the monument to Juana azury de Padilla in Sucre as part of the commemorative events for the nation's bicentennial. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered a total military occupation of the Gaza Strip as part of his genocidal campaign against the Palestinian people. Senior Zionist regime officials said that the decision has already been taken on the pretext of preventing the enclave from remaining under the control of the Hamas resistance movement. Although Israeli troops currently occupy approximately 75% of the devastated territory, the plan would involve them extending their ground invasion to more areas. The move comes amid growing international criticism of the genocide and famine to which the Palestinian people of Gaza is being subjected, where more than 60,939 people have been killed by Israel since October 2023. In Palestine, the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, reported that an average of 28 children die every day in the Gaza Strip. This is happening as a result of prolonged Israeli aggression, which has now lasted for over 660 consecutive days. In a statement, the organization warned that Palestinian children are losing their lives due to airstrikes, malnutrition, hunger, and a lack of essential services, including medical care and humanitarian assistance. UNICEF highlighted that this daily figure is equivalent to the number of students in an entire school class, illustrating the magnitude of the tragedy. The agency stressed that children in the enclave urgently need food, drinking water, medicine, and protection. And Israel has allowed only 674 trucks of aid to enter the Gaza Strip in the 8 days since the border crossings were opened on July 27th. According to the Government Information Office in Gaza, approximately 4,800 trucks had to enter during this period to meet minimum humanitarian needs. The institution explained that the daily average of entries did not exceed 84 trucks, representing only 14% of the minimum requirement. The organization denounced the continuous looting and theft of the majority of this aid as part of a systematic policy implemented by the occupation under the pretext of creating chaos and famine. And since the beginning of the Israeli aggression against Gaza in October 2023, the occupying forces have arrested more than 18,500 Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. The document, published by the Commission for Detainees and Ex-Detainees, Palestinian Prisoner Society, and the Adamir Prisoner Support and Human Rights Association, reveals a significant increase in arrests accompanied by systematic violations of human rights of detainees. The report detailed that at least 570 Palestinian women were arrested, including residents of the West Bank and Palestinian citizens of Israel. An activist in Tunisia announced that people from 44 countries have joined forces to launch a civilian flotilla to Gaza at the end of August in an effort to break the Israeli blockade. The flotilla is composed of 4 initiatives: the Sumud Maghreb Flotilla, Global Movement to Gaza, the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, and Sumud Nusantara. The overall objective of this departure is to break the illegal blockade of Gaza by sea, to establish a humanitarian corridor, and to confront the ongoing genocide against the Palestinian people, explained the organizer Haifa Mansouri. The first convoy will leave Spanish ports on August 31st, followed by a second wave from Tunisian ports on September 4th. And in the United States, the New York police arrested over 40 protesters against the aggression in Gaza who rioted and blocked streets near the Trump International Tower. The protest was organized by the U.S. Jewish group If Not Now, who demanded the Trump administration to stop supplying arms to the Israeli occupation army and to pressure Benjamin Netanyahu to allow more humanitarian aid into the Palestinian territory. Several protesters were arrested Monday in New York as demonstrators took to the streets to demand an end to what they described as the starvation of civilians in Gaza. Officers detained the protesters and loaded them into New York Police Department vans. Despite the arrest, many continued to chant slogans. And in the United States, according to a draft obtained by the media, over a dozen Democratic members of Congress intend to sign a letter demanding President Donald Trump to recognize a Palestinian state. In a massive address to the Secretary of State Marco Rubio, several House Democrats stressed Palestinian rights as a people and nation must be urgently upheld. They underscored the need for recognition to Palestinian self-determination and for protection for Palestinian lives. Media outlets asserted the letter would be sent out after September 16th. Precisely, the letter comes as human rights experts sound the alarm over the unfolding famine in Gaza, and as some Israel's key Western allies, including France and Canada, have recently pledged to recognize the region's statehood at the United Nations General Assembly next September.
That the people of Gaza need. It is despicable behavior.
In other topics, in South Africa, officials expressed concern about the U.S. tariffs, saying they could jeopardize over 30,000 jobs. Next Friday, August 8th, one of the highest tariffs that Africa has ever received from its third most important trading partner will come into force, generating uncertainty for the future of some industries in the agricultural and automotive sectors. South Africa's Minister of International Relations, Ronald Lamola, emphasized that despite South Africa's efforts to improve trade and investment relations with the U.S., the Trump administration opted to impose tariffs on imports. Lamola added that South Africa is proactively and collaboratively diversifying the trade portfolio. We now have our first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We're going to be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Chile, the Forensic Medical Service announces the delivery of two bodies that could be identified following last Thursday's mining tragedy at El Teniente of the state-owned mining company Codelco. The families accuse negligence and insist that workers had warned several times about problems in the mines, rock bursts, and the padlocking of shelters. In addition, the victims' families insist that the outsourcing model does not allow for the full safety of workers to be guaranteed. In this regard, the company's president assured that they consulted the Ministry of Labor about the alleged complaints and ruled out their existence.
No han recibido ninguna denuncia.
They have not received any complaints from any workers or anyone else in relation to this. Secondly, we have opened an investigation that will be conducted by an independent international organization to determine whether any violations of our protocol have been committed here. Whenever there is a violent death, the medical examiner's office evaluates an autopsy protocol that is sent to the prosecutor's office and that will not arrive within the next few hours.
Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro announced that the country's economy had grown by 7.71% in the first half of 2025. The Venezuelan president emphasized that the country had experienced 17 consecutive quarters of growth, driven by key sectors such as hydrocarbons, mining, and trade. He also emphasized that despite the financial blockade imposed by the United States, Venezuela has consolidated itself as the economy with the greatest advance in the region. He also affirmed that a new robust and balanced model based on national productivity had been built, successfully diversifying the economy through non-oil exports.
Venezuela continues to lead South America's growth in the first half of 2025. As we know, the first two quarters registered growth of 9% and 6.65% respectively. Based on this, we can estimate a preliminary growth of 7.71% in Venezuela's gross domestic product for the first half of the year. People are upset, I would say, but the report doesn't mention that. People are upset because we continue to grow.
The president of our multi-platform news organization, teleSUR, Patricia Villegas, presented the teleSUR Citizen Award to President Nicolás Maduro in recognition of his unceasing efforts to build hope and continue the work of the liberators of Latin America and the Caribbean.
We want to take advantage of these minutes of your program to give you a recognition that we created this year for our 20th anniversary, which is called teleSUR Citizen. I am going to tell my colleagues to bring it to you while I give you some of the reasons why we are giving you teleSUR citizenship. teleSUR was born celebrating Bolivar, and with that decision, Commander Hugo Chavez signed forever the destiny of our multi-platform. All of our roads lead to hope. There is no conviction that is far from us. The 43 normal students from Ayotzinapa will return. The Gazarí will run free from the river to the sea. Our America will tear down walls and blockades, and there will be no pleasant without land and no indigenous without jungle. The murderers of Berta Cáceres will be brought to justice, and her children will enjoy the rivers that she defended with her life. From this certainty, we give you our nationality in recognition of your unceasing construction of hope. To you, President Nicolás Maduro, who have been able to continue the seal of the liberation and of so many of the people of Latin America and the Caribbean, so convinced that the South, now global, is the great opportunity of all of humanity. We ask you, President, to receive the citizenship of teleSUR on behalf of those excluded communities to whom you tell that the great fatherland is impossible without them in the forefront. On behalf of those who have learned by your example that the only acceptable empire is the one where we all live as equals, appreciating the difference on behalf of those of us who propose a nationality committed to the forgotten of the earth, inexhaustible and obstinate in defense of the dreams of justice against any attempt of subjugation and manipulation. We ask you to be a teleSUR citizen. Aprobado.
In Switzerland, environmental activists protest in the United Nations headquarters Monday, demanding more imminent action to face the world's plastic contamination crisis. The manifestation aligns with a new round of negotiations that gather representatives of 193 countries to draft the first internationally binding treaty to limit plastic production and address the detrimental impacts on health and the environment. Protesters were seen holding banners with messages against plastic production, while Greenpeace representative Graham Forbes encouraged powerful nations like France, Germany, Canada, and the United Kingdom to face the few countries that are still backed by fossil fuels productions. Negotiations in Geneva would last 10 days, amid warnings stating that if they don't come to an agreement, world plastic consumption could double by 2060. And in Scotland and the north of England, the passage of Storm Flores has affected travel routes, disrupting daily life for citizens. In this regard, the Met Office reported the storm of unusual strength for the time of the year triggered a nationwide orange alert. The meteorological event has registered record-breaking winds reaching 130 kilometers per hour on the southeast island west of the United Kingdom. In this context, authorities reported the cancellation of flights, ferries, and various activities, as some 43,000 homes were left without power on Monday afternoon. According to Scotland's Justice Secretary Angela Constance, the weather is expected to improve on Tuesday, but the recovery period will require some time to clear the debris. And in China, the maximum alert level has been activated due to the rains that struck Hong Kong, which caused the suspension of academic and work activities. The black storm alert is the highest in the alert system, and according to meteorological authorities, around 10,000 lightning bolts lighting up the sky. And they forecast continued precipitation in the city and the neighboring city of Guangdong, where floods were recorded in various urban areas, disrupting public transport, in addition to the closure of sections of roads and metro stations. The authorities call on the population to be advised to stay away from areas at risk of flooding. We have our second break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay updated on the world's most recent events. Final break, don't go away. Welcome back. Argentine President Javier Milei officially vetoed 3 laws passed by Congress that benefited retirees, pensioners, and people with disabilities. The decision overturns the regulations that had been passed with broad legislative support on July 10th, marking a new chapter in the confrontation between the executive branch and parliament. The vetoed laws included a 7.2% increase for all retirement benefits and pensions, as well as an increase in the pension bonus from $70,000 to $110,000 adjusted for inflation. The reinstatement of the 2-year pension moratorium was also rejected. The veto of these laws, with a high social impact, comes amid intense parliamentary activity where sensitive issues will be debated. And in Colombia, Bogotá's top court rejected Monday the request presented by Álvaro Uribe's defense team to temporarily suspend the former president's house arrest. The defense claims Uribe's human rights and his presumption of innocence have been allegedly violated. The move seeks to turn around the house arrest sentence issued on first instance by Judge Sandra Liliana Heredia against the former president. Álvaro Uribe was found guilty for the crimes of witness bribery and procedural fraud, as a result of which he was sentenced to 12 years of prison. Bolivian President Luis Arce unveiled the monument to Juana Azurduy de Padilla in Sucre's May 25th Square as part of the commemorative events for Bolivia's bicentennial. In his speech, the national leader said that Juana Azurduy de Padilla symbolizes today's struggles for freedom, equality, social justice, and women's empowerment. Arce hoped that the monument would inspire girls and young women to dream, to fight for their rights, and to know that they are part of history that is still being written. In this sense, the head of state highlighted the importance of paying tribute to the country's heroes in this way.
Nos han detallado y por supuesto se estará desarrollando.
And also, as part of the celebrations, Bolivian President Luis Arce presented the book, The History of Bolivia in its Bicentennial, and praised the legacy that inspires and maintains the unity of the Bolivian people. Arce affirmed that through a critical narrative, the book seeks to build a better nation for the future generations, reiterating that without history, there is no identity, and without identity, there is no country.
De la memoria y la herencia histórica colectiva.
The Polish town of Dro is said to welcome more than 2,000 music enthusiasts from around the world for the 80th edition of the International Chopin Piano Festival. Dedicated to the Polish pianist and composer Frédéric Chopin, the festival will feature 9 days of concerts and musical workshops. The Jubilee Festival will take place from August 1st to the 9th. The Jubilee edition of the festival will be inaugurated by a concert featuring a symphony orchestra and excellent soloists. Outstanding pianists from all over the world will perform, including winners of prestigious piano competitions. The program will include interpretations of Chopin's works, as well as compositions by other masters of classical music. Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.